Phomolo.
Jerry.
Yeah, that's actually such a nice name. Are you a relaxed person? That's what it means, right?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
I'm a calm person.
Yeah.
I'm a calm person. So
You have a better vocabulary than I am.
yeah, essentially.
That's actually more calm than, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Than quiet.
Yeah, you know how they say
Stillness.
names mean something.
Yeah.
Stillness.
Stillness.
Stillness. Yes.
Sense of calm, a sense of ease.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, in detail, can you please introduce yourself and what you do?
My name, Phomolo Sekamotho, spoken word artist, musician. I make art.
Okay. What came first? Spoken word or music?
So the writing came first, definitely. I went to boarding school and I was jotting down things, you know. I think back then it wasn't poetry necessarily, but when I moved to Pretoria, that's when it was refined. And that's when I started, you know, immersing myself into the art form. And after the poetry came the music.
Yeah.
So poetry definitely came first.
The writing came first that informed poetry.
So the writing happened, then it became poetry, and then the poetry informed the music.
Can there be poem without the writing?
Definitely. So I think I'll use music as an example. I think a lot of the time music is nothing but sounds, and sounds you don't have to write down. So you could recite something without necessarily writing it down. I think it would be termed as freestyling, but sometimes it's more about feel and it would make sense afterwards. So definitely I believe they can be poems without being the written word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in the beginning when you were writing, was it like a conscious decision that I am writing poetry, or it was just words that were spilling out of you that took a form of poetry?
So I think because we're human beings, there are feelings, there are thoughts. The writing was an outlet. Sort of like when pressure builds, there'll definitely be an outlet because, you know, something has to escape. And like I said, it wasn't poetry. I don't think it was poetry. I think poetry is something that you refine. It's the work that you edit. Because not everything that is written and that is supposed to be a poem is actually a poem. You know, a poem is something of a process. There's a lot of editing that goes into creating a poem. So yeah, I think it was more writing than it was poetry back then.
Did you have a name for it?
Yeah, just writing. You know, I was young, and you know, I was fascinated by things. In boarding school, there was talent shows. I was into hip hop. I started listening to rap in boarding school. My uncle introduced me to hip hop. So, you know, maybe that had a part to play in me starting to actually write.
And at what age were you aware that I have a thing for words?
I think grade 8. Grade 8 definitely, because that's when I went to boarding school. So boarding school opens one up to a lot of things. I think you discover a lot about yourself. You start doing a lot of things, even though you don't necessarily stick with them. You know, I think it's an experimental phase. So I think grade 8 definitely, and I was 13, I think, yeah.
And were you always good with words in terms of like vocabulary, your use of language, or you were just stringing words together?
I wanna answer the question looking at my family. I'm not from a musical family, but I am from a very creative family. When I think about my mother, when I think about her mother and her dad, and just looking at the lineage, they're creative beings. You know, they're always doing things with their hands, creating something out of nothing. So I think it's something that was inherent. I don't think I realized that I was good with words until people started saying you are good at something. How do you do that? How do you put that together? Um, yeah, I think only later in life you realize that there is something here, and that's why we pursue what we pursue, because there's something there. There's talent, and there's definitely something. But I realized later on in life that I can actually play with words and bend words and manipulate words.
To be able to write, you need to read a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Were you always like a reader?
That's an interesting question, actually. I think I've had phases in my life where I read a lot, but I also had phases in my life where I would put the book down and I was more enticed by watching documentaries or listening to music. Like I said, hip hop had a huge influence in me starting the writing, my process. And then there was the whole spoken word movement. We'd watch a lot of videos on YouTube. Like right now, I'm not reading a lot. I'm watching a lot of documentaries. I'm watching a lot of interviews, because that's what drives me. But obviously, what you put in is what you get out. Yes, I read a lot. I read a lot of articles actually on my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just basic articles.
Basic articles. If something catches my eye, I would read up on it. But I also realized that I like the use of language, and there's something that sparks in me when I learn a new word and I want to use it. So that always makes me eager and keen to read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So you go to boarding school. Those are important formative years of your life, and you discover this thing of you like words and you like writing, and then what happens?
And then I'm studying. I'm studying finance. But I'm doing this thing, and it's just a thing on the side. But when I was in high school, I used to dream a lot about traveling, performing music, performing poetry on different stages. Fast forward, I realized that this is a thing that I actually want to do. I'm happy doing this. I want to immerse myself in the art world. So what we do with a group, a couple of friends, we start an NPO. So what that then does is I'm able to blend the two worlds of poetry and finance. So the NPO is a poetry-related NPO, but I'm also making music. So the hope is that these converge and I can be, an artist 24 hours.
Why go study finance instead of the arts?
That's a great question. I think when you're in high school, when you're young, you're still finding yourself. There are variations. You are not one thing. You think about yourself as a manager or as a CEO of a particular company, dealing with money, But parallel to that, there's also the love for art and the love for writing, and there are many other things. So that's why I studied finance. Also because when I went to varsity, I was just writing. I didn't know that you could make money from art. You could make money from writing. And that is something that I found out later in life. And, that's what I'm trying to explore now. Yeah, I think we are different people. It's not one thing or the other. And sadly, we learn this later in life. And that's what I'm trying to live, A lot of the time I feel people say you can't be an artist and have a 9 to 5. It has to be one or the other. And I'm like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, I feel like it's like an underdeveloped point of view, because as a person, you're made up of multiple different things.
Precise.
Yeah.
As
And
in-
also the arts, it's not necessarily like a side hustle. It's a part of who you are. And if your finance can feed your arts, and the arts can feed your finance.
And that's why they call it the business of arts.
Yeah.
At some point you need to know a bit about everything so that you can, use the tools and the skills to enhance your brand. So, business has a lot of aspects. There's marketing, there's strategy, and then there's the creative process, there's the admin, it's a lot of things. And that's what studying finance has helped me actually. It's not just about the music. The music is the most important aspect because everything supplements and complements that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at what age were you aware of your talent?
High school, grade 9, 14 years old, talent shows, the reception was good, and obviously they say when you're within something you can't see it for what it is. So feedback and people being appreciative of whatever it is that you're trying to do sort of like gives you that confidence, and it gives you the energy. And I think grade 9 was very important for me.
So if there was absence of feedback, were you going to be able to know that I have something special here?
Sheesh. That's heavy. That's heavy. That's heavy. I don't know. Because so maybe I can answer the question in relation to my album, right? So we created a body of work and I listened to the album. I love it. Like I listen to it every day. I listen to it because I love it. I listen to it because I have to. So people haven't heard the album. I haven't gotten feedback about the album, but I know it's really good. I'm not sure if that answers your question. So the album is not in the public sphere as yet, but I know that it's good. So maybe at some point with regards to my talent, if there was no feedback, I'd still know that there's something there. Yeah.
At a young age, you will still know?
I think so. The pathways are different, but you still get to where you need to get to at the end of the day. Yeah.
What's yours is yours.
What's yours is yours.
Cool.
What's meant to be will eventually become, yeah.
So, did you have any key mentors or people who deeply influence who you are, what you believe in, and what you committed to in your work and life? Tell me about them.
Sure. A lot of people that I don't know, a lot of people that I do know. Street Poet Society was a poetry movement at TUT. It was about art. It was about community. We'd travel from TUT to the Val and have shows with Uvuko. We'd go to Vets, we'd go to UJ. And for me, that was just like a beautiful thing, a communal thing. And then there's the poetry art scene, which I feel is slightly different from what happens in Joburg. With Pretoria, everybody knows everybody. It's communal. It's not as competitive. So I feel like that, there's a word for this. I feel like that community sort of like shaped my idea, because we went from sessions to shows. Sessions were about showcases, but they were also about conversation and building minds. So I feel like those young movements like street poetry, free minds, traveling black, helped my thinking, that school of thought. But then obviously I have mentors, Lebe. He helped me a lot in terms of the art aspect, working with the band, working with musicians, performing. So I feel like those individuals who were a part of the movements back in the days shaped my school of thought.
Do your parents support what you do?
My mom is very supportive of what I do, but also my mom is super chilled. My mom and I don't talk a lot, but we communicate. If she's not happy with something, she'll let me know. But she's always been supportive of what I do. Yeah.
But does she understand it?
Like I said, I come from a creative family. She's always creating things. On the album, I have a poem called Naledi. It's an extended metaphor of how she stays up at night creating work, knitting, sleeping in the AMs. So that is a metaphor for me creating work, writing, weaving words to create something.
Did the schools you went to teach you how to be a good person?
I love that. I think I learned to be a good person from the people that treat me badly, actually. So I learned that that's not how I want to treat people. How I'm being made to feel right now is not how someone else should feel because of me. And I think I'm generally a cool person. I'd like to believe that I'm a good person.
I've been consuming some of your work and it's incredibly amazing. It's great. And it shows that you have so much motivation in your work. What is the driver?
Honestly, everything that I dreamt of as a young individual has come to pass. What that then tells me is that anything is possible, right? Like, you put your mind to it, the universe is there. The universe is conspiring in the background to help you achieve what it is that you want to achieve. So there's no way that it's not going to happen. It might not happen within the time frame that you put for yourself, but it definitely happens. And, just trying to be an example, trying to learn more about myself, trying to tell the stories that we have as a people, as a continent, as Black people, that's the motivation. So if you look at the history of Black people, our history, according to certain books, is about oppression. So I believe that what makes us beautiful is the fact that there are always obstacles. We are meant to get over the obstacles, and that is where our beauty lies. So for me, that motivates me on some, okay, we are 500 steps back, but we're still going to make it.
When do you think it's going to change for Black people's story to always overcome? Like, I'm tired of overcoming.
Us having this conversation right now is things changing. You being here is things changing. Me doing what I want to do is things changing. In the same breath, I believe in destroying and rebuilding, because a lot of the things that are built are on the foundations of, the evil, the oppression, and, the strife of Black people. I believe in uprooting all the evil, and if we don't realize the true freedom that we aspire for, our children and our children's children will definitely, reap the benefits. But just, Black people doing their thing, collaborating amongst one another, for me, that's significant, and we are making the change daily.
I was listening to somebody else and they used the analogy of speaking about the social ills in society, the isms. They said that the analogy was, it's like somebody was baking a cake and they wanted to really make a sweet cake, so they took cups and cups and cups and cups and cups of what they thought was sugar, and they put in the cake only to find out it was salt.
Sheesh.
Now there's no way of fixing this this cake. You have to throw it away and bake a new cake.
Destroy and rebuild. Throw away the cake. Build something new. I'm for that. I definitely believe in that because foundation, the roots are the most important thing for building anything. That cake is gone. Pieces of a struggle actually means that the struggle is there, but for you to move forward, you have to take the situation for what it is.
By definition, is a cake sweet? Is it supposed to be sweet?
A cake is supposed to be a cake. A cake is supposed to be enjoyable. Also because a cake represents something, celebration, just on the surface, right? So if something is not enjoyable, then it defeats the purpose.
So we can't call it a cake.
Yeah, so we need to, bake our own cake.
What is the intention with the work that you do?
Tell stories, preserve language, and tell our stories our way. Because our stories are there somewhere, but they're being told for us and not by us. So that's the narrative that needs to change.
Your use of language is absolutely incredible. Like the Setswana poems in the albums and the recital. Did you study Setswana or Sotho?
I didn't actually. So ke Mosotho first and foremost. The lead vocalist Mputsing Suhume ke Motswana. The only reason why I have one poem, actually maybe two, in Sesotho is because Sesotho is an extremely difficult language, and you don't want to do an injustice. I have Sesotho books. I'm trying to supplement my Sesotho vocab, and in future I would like to, write my work in Sesotho because that is something that I advocate for. English is very important because it's a medium to communicate, to express yourself, but Sesotho is just as important because if you go to any country around the world, they're going to ask you about your culture, and you need to be able to fully grasp and explain and speak your language. So for me, that's what I mean by saying I'm trying to preserve language and I'm trying to tell stories.
What would you say is the one problem, be it social, political, cultural, economic, you intend to solve with your work that you can think of right now?
The injustices. So there's a conception, a misconception that art doesn't pay. Over and above that, poetry is seen more as an interlude, right? There's this narrative of starving artists, and for me, that's something that I'm trying to change. Music makes money. Artists can make money. I think that the misconception that music and art doesn't pay also helps, these sort of like bigger bodies, like the music industry, so that's what I'm trying to, tackle. Art does pay.
Is that what people hear when they listen to your stuff? That art pays?
That art pays?
Yeah.
Well, the album is yet to drop, so I'll have to wait to hear what people say. But I don't want to sell the narrative that we are struggling. There are struggles, the struggles are there, but this thing that art is just for broke kids, nah.
And what is the underlying message in your work that ties all together?
We are beautiful as a people. Black people are beautiful. Black people are resilient. Black people have stories.
Is race about power or color?
I think it's more about power than it is about color, but a bit of both. Because if you look at those that are in power, they're definitely not black, definitely white, in the background, controlling everything.
So it's more about power.
Yeah.
Okay. What influences your creativity?
Life. So just absorbing everything that happens around me, seeing my peers do their thing, the music that I listen to, and just the authentic story of someone in a township or someone in the rural area. Because I grew up in Vepenar. It's a very small town on the border of Lesotho. So before I went to Velcom and before I came to Pretoria, I remember things that happened there vividly. And I'm not sure if it's because it was authentic, we were free, we were children, but that story and being, raised by my grandmother inspires a lot of what I write. And just appreciating women because I was raised by a woman. So yeah, a lot of the time also I realize that when I write, I try to let the pen do its thing, and then a few years later, that which was written makes sense. So obviously there are concepts. You have a concept, and then you wanna execute a particular concept. But sometimes when the spirit of writing is with you, you let the pen do its thing, and then things make sense.
Okay, grandmothers are very important in society, and you also, like you mentioned, you grew up in a space where there was a lot of feminine energy. How did that shape who you are, and how does that come about in your work?
I think I'm a very strong individual because of my mother, because of my grandmother. I don't know my dad, so everything that I am and all the things that I know about me are because of my mom and her mom and my great grand. And when I think about them, I think about love, and I think I'm loving because of who they were and how they did things. I think about my mother, I think about her mother, and I just see this painting of sacrifice and doing what needs to be done. And I think you see it with me as well. It was a struggle to put together like a body of work. The first recording got lost, but we needed to like dust ourselves and then re-record the music and do what needs to be done so that it reaches the masses, so that it sounds proper in its quality, basically making use of what you have to create something. So I think that's what I learned a lot from my mom, just making something out of the rough cut. Yeah.
Yeah. Are there limits to human creativity?
Are there limits to human creativity? I think we limit ourselves mentally. And maybe we put a lot of theory in front of us. If you look at African customs, there isn't a lot of theory, but there is obviously culture to serve as guidance. But there's a lot that we can do if we remove the boxes that we put ourselves in. The mind definitely, is a limitation. because as humans we are vast, and this is where the different variations come from. That's why I don't believe that it's one thing or the other. You can do multiple things. You can do different things. You can experiment with different things, to come up with one thing that is whole and beautiful. Yeah.
And when does specialization become important?
Because life is so long. Because life is so long, you can't specialize before you experiment with different things. I don't think that is possible. You need to experiment with different things, and then at a particular stage in your life, you will settle on something.
So, at some point in your life, after experimentation,
Definitely, yeah. But so I think it's backward. When you're young, you're told that you need to go to school, be a doctor, get married, have kids. I don't know what else. Maybe die. You get it. So I think it's backward. But like, what happens with everything else? Maybe the traveling, learning, because even traveling alone, is going to expose you to so many different things. It's going to, feed your perspective. So yeah, I don't believe that it's one thing or the other, and this is how it is. There's a template. So yeah.
What informs your decision to share your body of work after creating it?
If I'm being honest with you, I think this work, especially the current work that we worked on, I think this is more an escapism than it is me putting something out. I think I'm very critical of what I create. I'm very sensitive about the art that I create. So I was pushed by important individuals that you need to put the work out, and the timing just felt right. I believe in energy, feeling. If something doesn't feel right, like I won't put it out, but it feels good to be putting out music. It feels good to be putting out an album. Now, if you ask me why, I wouldn't be able to answer, because I've always pictured or envisioned the music to expose me to international markets where I'm able to travel, perform, do international gigs. There isn't a lot of traveling now, but it feels right to put out the music right now. Yeah, I think it's escaping. When something wants to escape, it wants to escape. Again, that analogy of pressure, there'll definitely be an outlet if enough pressure builds up. This is good pressure, positive pressure.
But at what point? At what point do you know that, okay, this is a song, it's complete, it's finished, I can share it?
So that's the thing. Works of art are never complete. Like, works of art are never complete. Hence, I say it's an escapism, because if I write a poem today, I could leave it to gather dust, and then I'd want to edit it a year from now, because we are forever changing as human beings, and so the work changes, our outlook changes. What I say now might not necessarily be the same thing that I say 5 days from now, because we are forever evolving. So completion is subjective. I believe in process, and I thoroughly enjoyed the process of creating the album, and the outcome is an added bonus for me. So I also feel like the individuals that I met, working on the project, sort of like helped me become a better person. So I thoroughly enjoyed the process. Thoroughly enjoyed the process. In terms of like releasing the project, it's escaping. But I'm happy with the escape.
Yeah. And then have you ever created something that you embodied so much that you found it so hard to let go or share it with the world?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I'm not sure if I become attached to a product. I'm not sure if I think it's just a critical thing. Like, what are people gonna say about this piece of work? That's why I don't put it out. Not that I'm attached to it, you know. If I'm attached to something that much because I love it, then I definitely want people to hear it. So I think I'm a bit of a mixed breed. I want to be seen, but I also don't want to be seen. You know, I want to be something, but I want to be nothing at the same time. So what that means is, you know, I want to be seen for the work that I create, but I also just want to like blend in and chill at home, chill on my couch, um, you know, chill with my partner and just be me. And I don't know. I don't know if it makes sense. It sounds complicated. As much as I want the work to be appreciated and be seen, sometimes I just want to like chill out and fade because I'm shy. Also, you know, a practical example would be maybe I have this dope jacket. I want people to see that it's a dope jacket, but also maybe I don't want to be too showy. Yeah, I think I'm a little too self-conscious.
Okay.
Yeah.
What comes to you first, a melody or the words?
Because I'm a poet, the words definitely. So how we created music with the band, the poems used to inform the music. The poems definitely inform the music. But then as you work with musicians more, they have ideas and you want to explore, you know, the inverse of that, you know, hearing a melody and writing to a melody. And when you experiment with a guitar, for example, you know, you play around, you scale, you play a chord, you give it to the musical director, and then the poem will come afterwards. So in the beginning, it used to be the poems, the words, but now it could be, you know, the chords or the melody first. Yeah, because Mpoteng, the lead vocalist, sometimes she sends me ideas and then I have to build on them. You know, it's not like a one-way street.
So, what brought about the transition from poetry to music?
I think my love for music, the people that I look up to, we were speaking earlier about archiving. I think music is foregrounded. To find poetry, you have to like dig deep, you have to be a part of the scene, you know. So I was exposed to a lot of music, so I was inspired by musicians that worked with bands. But also there's another story. My first international gig was in Zim, and the hotel room is not the most comfortable places, you know, if you're alone. And I thought to myself, if I'm gonna travel to perform, why not be with a group of people, you know, that are really close to you? Yeah. Obviously, if that happens, it will be a blessing. But also, there are things that I do now that are sort of like rituals that are going to aid me anywhere in the world, you know, because they're going to feel like home. Um, but yeah, the people that perform music with bands definitely inspired, you know, my trajectory.
Yeah. And then when you're thinking, okay, I want to cross over to music and make music with using my words, what informed the decision to go with a band that plays instruments?
Um, I think I tried rapping with beats. I tried it. It's it's cool, but there was just something about a live a live band. So you can always rely on human beings more than machines or something that's repetitive that can't change. So I think once I started like experimenting with a band, you know, I just resonated with it like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And it became difficult for me to go back to like using beats. I mean, I'm not saying I won't, you know, use beats ever again. because that would be like shutting doors on like collaborations and like, other things. But I really, really love working with like different human beings and seeing how my poems translate into their ideas and vice versa. So I'm attracted and I gravitated towards live music. Yeah.
Do you think at some point you're going to come full circle and go back to writing poetry and maybe releasing books?
Because I believe in art paying, as a poet, as a writer, there are many ways one can diversify. So it's not just about the music. I could be writing things for other people. So maybe not books necessarily. I mean, if the following grows and it's big enough, I could write a book. But the beautiful thing about this project that we created is that it's multi-dimensional. There's the musical aspect, there's the visual elements, because there are images for all of the songs, but also there's a digital booklet that has poems, and the poems are not the lyrics to the album. These are like poems, because there are people that appreciate reading poetry, and because that's the core of what I do. I'm catering to that market too. I didn't want to like just immerse the poetry within the music without giving people the written word. So there is poetry, and in future I'm open to like creating other written work outside of the music.
Your following, or the people that have been following your journey from the beginning up until now, have you been easily molding them to know that there's this music coming, or is it just going to be like, bang, ma'am, here we are?
I'd like to believe that they are aware, because visually we've been putting out work. So the following. If you follow me for my music and for my art, then you know that there's definitely something coming. Yeah, it's not going to be impromptu. It's not going to just jump out of nowhere.
Okay, and then can we speak about your album? Can you please take me through the creative process, what informed it, your song selection, what ended up on the editing room floor, what didn't make the cut, why didn't make the cut?
Yeah.
Because it's always interesting to like know the creative process to the end product.
So we have a lot of music. We have a lot of songs. The album has 9 songs in total, but we recorded I think about 14 songs. Some of the best songs actually are not on the album. Funny enough, and this was not a fight per se. It was a tough decision between the band and I. They wanted a certain song, they wanted certain songs, but I felt like the thread that makes it feel like a project is sort of lost with the other songs that didn't make it. But because the future is now, the music that we didn't record and the songs that we did record that didn't make it onto the album, it's there, it's work, they'll escape when their time is ready. So the name of the album is Peace is of a Struggle, and it's essentially about, it emanates from pieces of a puzzle. So pieces of a puzzle has different pieces that you need to gather, that you need to find in order to create like a bigger picture. And I feel like that's what life is, trying to find pieces of ourselves, to create this image that is whole. But the thing is, as humans, we are not perfect, and because we are not perfect, it doesn't mean we aren't whole. So that's the story we wanted to tell with the songs that we selected, and I think it's a beautiful project. I can't wait for people to hear it and engage with it. Yeah.
Flex of he and I. What's in the name?
Sure, yeah. So I'm Flex of the band He and I. I'm an individual, but I work with a group of musicians that form the band. So He and I was. I came up with it when I was super Christian, way back when. It was just acknowledgement of a higher being. You know, there's God, and here I am. You know, in anything that I do. That was the meaning back then. But I think now, you know, He and I is whatever that you want it to be, you know, because we're not alone, we're a community. Ka Sesotho ba re motho ke motho ka batho. You know, so you're not alone, and you want people to relate to your work, you want people to relate to you, you want people to understand whatever it is that you're trying to do. So I think He and I can be many things to many different people. But the simplest way to explain Flex of He and I, I'm Flex, the name of the band is He and I. I'm attached to the band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I like it, and when you explain it like from a spiritual context or religious or like institutionalized religion context, Christianity or whatever, church, obviously it would be I stand before you, He and I, right? But also like musically, artistically, I also hear and I. It's almost like you hear it and also you can see it.
You're an artist. You're an artist. Yeah. I like that.
I like it.
I like that. I like
like
that.
He and
that,
I.
yeah. I'm gonna steal that.
Like you hear, yeah, it's like sonically and visually stimulating.
Sheesh. Yeah, yeah.
Because you can hear it and you can see it.
I'm definitely stealing
It's
that.
fine, it's yours, you can use it. Is the band fixed or it moves?
So
You invite
band,
other artists.
So the band has a core group of musicians, the first names on the list, right? But obviously musicians, you know, play for other bands. If someone is not available, we'll bring someone else in. But there is a core group, and I, being the band leader, can make the difficult, you know, decisions. But the band is flexible. Yeah. But there is a core group. Yeah.
And how did you decide to lead with the single that you're leading with out of the album?
Mankokosane. That song is actually like very special to the band and I. It was fitting because September was Heritage Month, and we wanted to channel nostalgia, you know, to tell those stories about, you know, a young boy in the township, you know, like reaching out for dreams, reaching out for trees, you know, just painting that picture of a township. And it just, you know, when you ask people, you know, like mentors, engineers, people that are, you know, engaging with the music, Mankokosane, you know, popped up. It was that constant, you know, you ask the band members, we all said like Mankokosane will be that song. And I think it's a good representation of who we are. You know, we want to preserve stories, we want to tell stories, and that's what it does. Obviously with the other songs, you know, they focus on, you know, social issues, there's political commentary, but there's also like how do I say this, poetry, you know, like straight up poetry. We felt like Mankokosane was a good representation of what the band is and what we need to be putting out first.
There is one particular song, I think there's two iterations of it. I don't know if it's Naledi, that it's a poem and then like towards the end, I don't know, maybe it's an intro and outro, but I got two vibes. Am I
Really?
Did I hear things?
That's interesting. Yeah, it's two verses. It's two separate verses. The first part, you get the poetry me, the spoken word me. There isn't a lot of music. And then with the second verse, because, you know, the music is moving, it sounds like I'm rapping, but I'm still reciting. Yeah, I'm not sure about the vibes though. Maybe if you explain the different vibes or the different feels that you get,
Yeah.
I'll be.
No, sorry, I don't have the actual thing, but I felt like it was like the second song and like the one that it's 8 or 7. Did you do one song in 2 different ways?
Oh, I think you're talking about Mangokosani, 7 and 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so what happened was we split a song. So there's the interlude to Mangokosani. It's the same thing. You know, the chorus is there, the kids are there, and it blends and it flows into Mangokosani. So yeah, that's what you're referring to.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Okay.
It was just the theatrics, aesthetic, really. Yeah.
And when you were creating this album, did you think about radio airplay
Like
or
I
commercial radio airplay?
No, I didn't actually. I didn't. So when I'm creating work, I'm not thinking about the audience. I'm thinking about the work. I create the product. I have the product, and then I'll think about selling the product. So I wasn't thinking about airplay and all of that when we were creating the project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you nervous about it because this is how you're introducing yourself to the world?
Definitely. Definitely nervous, but it makes me happy to know that it's a project that I love. Regardless, I enjoyed the process. The outcome is really like the bonus, you know. I thoroughly enjoyed working on music with a group of musicians and listening to the project. Sheesh, yeah, I'm really happy. But that does not take away the nervousness of reception. It's sort of like performing. I never like, I'm never not nervous before a performance, ever. Yeah. A friend of mine said it's because you respect the audience, but I also think it's because I'm super shy.
Cultural radar. What is moving the needle and hitting the cultural nerve right now?
I like that question so much. So I think, just as an observation, I'm noticing a lot of young people be open to African spirituality. I think a lot of the time we come from families and we are given something, right? So it's always beautiful to witness people sort of like get out of that and realize that there's something else. So I think I'm noticing a lot more reception and keenness to ancestors, African spirituality, and all of that. And I think it's a fresh of breath air. And this whole thing of you cannot pray to God and have your rituals at home. It does not work, you know. At least there is a conversation being had, and for me, it's a fresh of breath air. A breath of fresh air.
What do you know now that you didn't know then that you wish somebody told you?
That you can make money from art. I wish I knew this early, you know, that you'll need, you know, different skill sets. You'll need to know a bit of everything, you know, to get by, essentially. The human aspect is the most important thing. Like, people are really, really important. Yeah.
What still surprises you most about people?
People that are surprised when racists act racist. Racist, that's a word, right? Yeah. I mean, it surprises me. Like, why are we still surprised? In fact, I become glad when someone in France says, yeah, we need to test out this vaccine in Africa first. Like, that doesn't surprise me. Like, that's just how they are. When someone says apartheid was good, you know, for the country, like why are you still surprised that someone said that? When Trump says what he says, like, how are you still surprised? Like, you know, yeah. That's just me, though.
Yeah. How do you define success for yourself?
Doing what I want to do at my own pace, doing it how I want to do it, enjoying it and being happy with what I do.
What is the lesson that took you the longest to learn?
This is a lesson that I'm still learning. To step outside of myself, to engage people, to speak more. It's very important. I realize that, I want to do things a particular way. I'm a very reserved person, but to get by, you need to have conversations. You need to talk to people. It's a lesson I'm still learning.
Is love a feeling or a choice?
It's a decision. It's definitely a decision. Because feelings fade. Feelings are fleeting. If I wake up feeling like I don't want to talk to you, it doesn't mean I love you any less. I love you because I felt some type of way about you, but I'm deciding to be here in this space. Yeah.
And when do you know when you're truly loved?
When you know. When you know. Just how people treat you, decisions, energy. It's very easy to know when something is off if you're a person that listens to yourself, not so much your mind. If you know that something is off and you ignore it, then I don't know, it's just a disaster waiting to happen. But how people treat you, how people speak to you, and it's also like a feeling, you'll know. Yeah.
By what standards do you judge yourself?
By what standards? I'm inclined to say by my standards, but that sounds so shallow. This is something to think about. I think there's always a timeline and a thread of things that you want to achieve, and you, as a person, you're constantly looking at what you want to achieve, what you want to do, and those are the standards, I suppose. It's a difficult question. Yeah.
Is achievement success?
I'm trying to break down the word achievement in my head. The thing is, success is subjective. But as a person that sets goals, you want to achieve your goals, and that determines success. If you achieve peace of mind, if that's what you want, then you're successful at achieving peace of mind. So, in a way, yes.
What is your personal mission statement?
Live and let live. Live and let live. This is because people are vast and people are so different. Just because you don't understand what someone else is doing, just gotta let people live. What I'm doing today is being judged by someone else. But a few years from now, that someone might be doing the same thing because they understand better. So live and let live.
I am most happy when?
I am chilling on my couch.
I believe in?
God.
What is your daily prayer?
My partner knows it now. May I continue to be a reflection of your grace.
How do you define God?
A friend, someone that's there for you, always.
What do you wish for yourself?
To be something and nothing all at once.
Well done. I think we'll leave it on that point. Thank you very much for your time.
That was amazing. That was amazing. You learn so much about yourself when you're doing these things. I can't thank you enough.
Great. 100%.